Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my guest is Kendra Seck. Kendra is a mortgage banker from Atlanta, and she helps first-time home buyers, second and third-time home buyers with residential and commercial properties. So welcome to the show, Kendra.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Atlanta is a hot market, certainly. Lots of things are going on in the city, so we want to find out as much information as possible about investing in real estate here. It seems like a very good place to do that. So give us a little bit about background of yourself and what your company is, and ultimately, what kind of clients do you help?
Oh, wonderful. You're absolutely right. The real estate market in Atlanta is booming right now. It's still definitely a seller's market. A little bit about myself. I've been in the mortgage industry or banking industry for 17 years now. The years fly by really quickly. I've been able to help hundreds of people get into homes, understand financial literacy, build their credit, and have better savings and budgets for the future. Also, the thing that I do, my niche, is that I teach clients how to go from believing that a home is a place where it's only sentimental and having the mindset that a home is sentimental, but the bigger picture is that it's a place for you to have an investment, something to pass on generational wealth, and a place for you to build memories, but at the same time, a place for you to be able to start out with a smaller home and elevate to your second, third, fourth home, becoming an investor. Instead of a tenant, you become a landlord, if that makes sense.
Well, it does make a lot of sense. The money in a house is something that's going to generally stay with you for 20, 30 years. So really treating it like an investment rather than that just a home that you say is definitely wise. But do a lot of people treat it like that? Or do they just think this is my home and, not really thinking about an investment?
Initially, a lot of people do just think about it like, this is my home. I have to have shelter. I have to have a place for my family. People always think of it that way. But I think with Atlanta having so many investment shows, we now have HGTV. A lot of people are becoming more and more interested in real estate investing. They're becoming more and more interested in how they can build their own wealth. But not only that, I'm finding that a lot of clients are now they're not happy anymore with the tradition of staying at a company for your whole life. That company giving you a pension, and you live off of that. They're no longer happy with it. They're not content. So they want a way where they can build their own wealth, and real estate is a wonderful way to do that.
Well, I think the whole pension idea is almost a thing of the past. It might have been what was working 20, 30 years ago, but you're right. There are so many more entrepreneurs now that are just trying to go into business for themselves. And real estate is definitely appealing to many, many people in the Atlanta area. So what kind of problems do you see these potential real estate investors run into?
Oh, goodness. We have some really interesting things happening. Yes, but they're good problems. I always say if you're moving toward a goal and you have an issue, a challenge, it's wonderful because it then becomes a learning experience instead of a problem. So what I see a lot of investors running into is they treat every single home as if they're going to personally live there. So sometimes they'll over-invest in the home. When the goal is for this home to be a rental property, you may not put as high-end finishes in the home, or you may put a floor that's a little more durable than a really light carpet. You may put a darker carpet, or you just make it where it's okay for people to move in and out, and it's something that children can harm. The paint on the wall will need to be washable, different things. So I see investors running into issues of just overspending when they're remodeling, or or just thinking that this is a home I'm going to be in for a really long time. So their initial investment, they put too much money into buying a home, and they're not able to cash flow on the back end of it.
Right. And ultimately, these kinds of things, you can get very invested in them, and you can get passionate about making it the best that it can be. But ultimately, it comes down to the numbers, and you want to make some money, right?
Oh, yes. I wish you could tell everyone that. Absolutely. I'll have people that want to really do a really nice outdoor deck. And I go, well, what about the properties in your neighborhood? Do they also have decks? You know, when you do the appraisal on the remodeling that you've done, will it increase your value? You know, I'll tell people, focus on kitchens, focus on bathrooms. When you walk in a home, these things give you the greatest value. So I'm always steering my clients to look at what's going to give them value if they're going to live in this home, and also what makes this house a viable investment if you need to sell it or move or go to your second home, because we are building wells.
And what do they have to think about when it comes to appraisals? Just like you said, if the houses around about don't have the features that you're looking to put in, is that a bad thing, or does it make your house stand out in the marketplace? How do you balance that out?
It's a wonderful thing for you. In essence, it's a wonderful thing for you. But an appraisal means that your home is being compared to other neighbors and to houses that are a half of a mile or a mile away from you. So we're looking for houses to be very similar to you. They could be in your same subdivision, in your same complex, but at least within like a half of a mile away from you. We're comparing those same houses. So if you spent $10,000 putting up a really nice monster deck and no other houses in the community have that, the appraiser may be able to give you $2,000 or $3,000 for that $10,000 deck, but it really hasn't helped your value that much because you're negative on that. You spent $10,000, but you're only able to get $2,000 or $3,000. Versus if every home in your community, or it's very common that homes in your community have these monster decks that are $10,000, then you've then increased your value another $10,000 because the other comparables in the neighborhood also have that. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. You're looking to compare. If your kitchen is outdated, and most of the homes in the community have taken down their old cabinets and put in stainless steel appliances, then that's something that you want to do as well, so you can be comparable to those other homes and get the most value for the neighborhood. Also desirable, when someone walks in, they'll look at the kitchen and go, I really want to live here. This is a nice kitchen. I could see myself cooking here.
Right. And first impressions like that are extremely important. So your house definitely has to look nice. And I guess staging is part of that when it comes to the selling point.
Absolutely. Staging is wonderful. When you walk into an empty home, you have to then incorporate a person's vision. And as you and I both know, not everyone has vision. Yeah. Some people will walk in and go, oh, it's so empty. Others will walk in and go, it's such an open concept. I can see all the way to the back of the home. Other people will walk in and go, I could put my couch here, my sofa here, my coffee table here, and they can see the vision. But when you stage the home, you skip that step for them. They actually are able to see, okay, here's where I would sit my kitchen table. Here's where the couch can go, and the room still looks spacious for them. So they're able to imagine themselves there and someone living there.
And that definitely helps with the sales process, and I'm sure it helps sell the home more quickly by investing in a little staging to set the atmosphere.
Absolutely, and it makes those pictures beautiful. Have you ever went online to look at a home and you have one picture or two pictures?
Right.
It's not good. Yeah. But if you see every room and it's staged out where you could put things at, it makes a great listing for you. Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely. That's what people want to see before going to see it for themselves, is all those potential rooms that they can live in, and they've already placed their kids in there and their furniture in there and everything. So yeah, it does get the emotions going, and we buy based on emotions. So that's a very important.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's get back to.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's get back to the market in Atlanta. I know there's been a lot over the past 10 years. I don't know if it's still going on, but there's been a lot of tear downs in the Atlanta area and the building up of these, nice $500,000 homes. How does that work when you've gone into one area of town or your neighborhood where most of the houses are still in their original condition from 100 years ago even, and then you're putting a new home in there? How does the value work on that new home? How do you get that appraisal?
That's going back to earlier we were talking about appraisals are a half of a mile or a mile away. When you have a remodel, or what we call it now is pop to top, let's say you have a one-story home, you literally take the roof off of that, make it a two-story home, or extend the back of it out, or extend the sides of it out. You're creating a much larger square footage and a footprint for that home, and it becomes able to be compared to larger homes. If the neighborhood that the house is in does not have those same types of homes, the appraiser is allowed to go further out. So maybe they can go 5 miles out and look for the comparables for the home that you've created, that you've built. Other investors are then able to come in and remodel homes in the neighborhood the same way and use the comparables of your remodel or use the comparables that are 5 miles away. But it allows the appraiser to compare it based on square footage and compare it based on the finishes inside the home. But it's a really good thing when we're able to come in and take neighborhoods to another level. It's good for the community to ride by and be able to see construction happening. Lots of people have more jobs. Neighborhoods are looking better, and people begin to care more about their homes in the neighborhood and take better care of their curb appeal, better care of their exterior of their home. So it's a good thing for the neighborhood, in my opinion.
Definitely. I love to see new construction, and it's certainly something that you see all over Atlanta now. I think Atlanta is the second fastest growing city in the country, I believe, as far as new jobs. So that's great that all these people are coming to Atlanta looking for work. And they have to, well, first of all, there's new commercial buildings going up, and then, these new people need a place for them and their families to stay. So everything is looking great. So as far as you say, you work with commercial investors as well as residential. Let's talk a little bit about the commercial side. What do you do for them?
The commercial side is a little more, not the major massive buildings. My commercial side is dealing more with hard money. So when you talk about those homes where someone's going to have a one-story and take the roof off, a lot of times they can't get conventional financing unless they're going to live in the home. But my investors are not able to get conventional financing because the house needs so much work. So we'll use a commercial hard money, or what we're calling soft money loan now. And we will go ahead, get them the money to buy the actual house, get them the money to remodel the home, and we'll give them a regular mortgage until they can refinance out of it, or if someone comes along and buys that new beautiful home. So that's the commercial side of things that I do, the hard money, soft money side, where the home's being remodeled or improved for the neighborhood. A lot of investors right now are using that type of funding because conventional financing is so difficult to get. Now, the interest rates are a little bit higher on the hard money side of things, but the products are vast now. We have so many products that have emerged within the last 2 to 3 years that are very helpful to investors, very helpful to people that want to improve the community and the neighborhood. So I help clients analyze how much their house is going to be worth after they finish their repairs. I help clients analyze the finishes that they're putting in the home to make sure that it's going to be worth exactly what they think it's going to be worth if they need to refinance or if they need to sell this home for market value. We do all of that inside of the hard money or commercial loan. People call them different names.
Well, talking about the mortgage crisis from, I guess, is 10 years ago now, what are some... Yeah, really. What are some misconceptions that people have about getting a mortgage now or have about hard money?
Oh my, the mortgage industry took a battle. I mean, it was, we just were blamed for a lot of things that we had to do with and a lot of things that we did not have to do with. I literally would have conversations with clients and say, I think this is too much home for you right now. And client, I did a pre-approval saying you're approved for $300,000. Clients commonly would come back and say, hey, I found a great house for $315 or $320. Can we make it? Can we push it? It's a common thing that happens with a lot of loan officers, a lot of bankers. People will come back and push what they're qualified for. So what happens if you're on an adjustable rate mortgage and the interest rates start going up and you've already pushed your limit, you're then going to be in a payment that you can no longer afford. And probably 8 to 10 years ago, we had loans where you didn't have to put that much money down. You may put 0 down or 1% or 3% down. And it's easy for people to walk away from things that they don't have anything invested in. So hence we had so many foreclosures, so many things happening. I think now we're not going to, I don't see products coming back now where you don't put any money down unless you're going to live in that home. I'm not seeing investment products at 100% loan right now. I don't know if that's going to come back in the future, but I think that's one of the things that harmed us previously. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are against ARM loans right now, adjustable rate mortgages. And I always tell people that education is king. If you educate yourself about a home and you're able to get a slightly lower interest rate, why have a 30-year mortgage if you know you're only going to live in a home for 3 years? You're going to pay a higher interest rate, and you may not need to. Now with the rates going up, I think adjustable rate mortgages will become more popular, or maybe they'll rename them and people will be open to them again. But I think mortgages are all about education, what works for you. Everyone doesn't have to have that traditional 30-year mortgage. Mm-hmm. You can have an adjustable rate mortgage, an interest-only mortgage. You can have different tools as long as you're educated and understand those tools. So I do want to advocate for hopefully thinking that those arms will open back up now that rates are increasing on us.
And what's that going to do? There's talk in the news every day about the interest rates going to creep up there on the mortgages. Mm-hmm. What's that going to do for the marketplace?
I think it will slow down people buying homes. It's still a seller's market, even though rates are creeping up on us. But I think it will slightly slow down people buying homes and begin our transition over to possibly a buyer's market within the next 2 to 3 years. But I'm not 100% sure if it will slow homes, because right now we have a shortage of affordable housing, especially in Atlanta. We also have a shortage of quality houses. A lot of people are rehabbing, but not everyone knows what they're doing. So with these shortages and more people having an interest in being homeowners, I'm thinking that at some point all of this has to balance out. We'll be able to bring in some more affordable housing, hopefully closer to the city, and people will be able to continue to get mortgages at a lower rate, but also that people become educated about, just because interest rates are increasing, they're still at historical lows. A rate at a 5% or a 6% is nothing to people who got loans 10 years ago in the crisis at 7, 8, and 9%, right?
Right.
So with these rates increasing, I'm hoping that people just understand you can get less of a home because your payment's going to be just a little bit more with a higher rate, but you can still get a home. So we can keep the housing market viable, if that makes sense.
So as far as getting your own personal home, the rates are going up and like that. But what does it look like for investors, who is, most of the kind of person that you work with now, or people that are investing in real estate? Mm-hmm. What is the increase in the mortgage rates going to do for them?
I think it's going to do a couple different things for them. If rates are increasing, it makes investors' mortgages more expensive. So the cash flow on their properties is going to be a little bit less than what they were expecting. But it's still a good thing for them because, again, rates are historically low. But it will, decrease their cash flow and increase their mortgage payments. It will also decrease the number of people that are buying homes from them. So it makes it where they have to make sure where they're buying property at is a place people want to live. You could buy a property on a street and there's no plans of people really wanting to live in that area right now. So it's going to be another form of due diligence that investors are going to have to make sure is proper. They're going to have to make sure this is a place that will flourish in the future. Businesses are attracted to this area. Maybe it's easily accessible to something new that Atlanta has to offer, like a Braves Stadium or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, things like that. They're going to have to make sure they're buying homes in areas that people want to live, that are in demand. So I just think that due diligence period and their cash flow will be a concern for them, but they'll be able to make it through. Investors are very resilient.
Right. And of course, there are plenty of investors here in Atlanta, so it might heighten the competition a little bit. So just knowing your numbers and being able to get that best rate on these mortgages is going to be extremely important for them.
Oh, yeah. They're going to have to make sure their credit stays high as well. You know, make sure their credit is at a place where they can get the lowest rate while these rates are rising.
Mm-hmm. So what's hot in Atlanta right now? Where are the areas that people are moving to? You talked about the new Braves Stadium up here in Marietta, and then we've got Mercedes-Benz coming in as well. There's a lot happening in Atlanta. Where are people flocking to live now?
Those are great areas that you just mentioned. Don't forget, Atlanta's becoming this Hollywood of the South area as well. You know, popular films. Yeah, really popular films are being filmed all over Atlanta. Stockbridge, Doraville, Alpharetta, Buckhead. Films are being, you know, it's not uncommon to have a little roadblock or have a shortage in traffic. Not like we need it. Traffic has always been a challenge. But it's not uncommon you have a blockage in the road because there's a film being shot. So it's desirable. People are looking for places to move to, like you said, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the new Porsche plant. Great area to live around there. Plus, it's accessible to the airport. There's lots of little neighborhoods popping up. You know, neighborhoods that have always been around, but just gentrification's happening as well. So it's very important to make sure that where you're moving will give you that equity. And most of inner city Atlanta is doing that for our investors and homeowners right now.
Right. I've seen a lot of construction in inner city Atlanta. What is that doing to the demographic of the city?
It's changing the demographic of the city. I'm about 50% on that. A part of it I feel like is necessary. Another part of it I feel like is invasive. When you have a community that's lived there for years and years, and they've not been able to jointly come together and take care of the community, I think that lets you know there's some things missing, like education, some things missing like understanding financial literacy, maybe the ability for credit, or even government, city, county programs that can come in and help with the remodeling for the current people that live there. That's one of the things I spoke to you about earlier with affordable housing. One thing that happens when people do come in and remodel these homes, they sometimes make them triple what the home was worth, if not quadruple. And the people that were currently living there can no longer afford the neighborhood. So when we have gentrification, the tax values increase drastically. And the next thing you know, an entire community has been pushed out and replaced. So a part of me feels like, well, people have had enough time to get the community together and they just decided not to. But another part of me absolutely knows that they didn't have the finances or the education or the support of the city to make it a place where they could make it better. So I would love to see people come in and take over the neighborhoods. Absolutely. My investors, I'm proud of them. But I would also like to see a balance of affordable homes where other people who are already in the community are able to live. So let's say if they put in 10 brand new homes that are massive and quadruple what the other homes were, then maybe there's, 3 or 4 on the next street where the community still lives there, some of the original people, especially the elderly, and they're still able to have a sense of community all together. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I think it's definitely about that balance. There also seems to be a lot of people that, maybe had some of the bigger homes outside the city are choosing to move into the city to cut down that drive because, add an hour to work and an hour back, it's not really great for you. And living in the city seems more attractive than ever now.
It does. And it cuts down on road rage, stress. People are spending more time with their family. But the people that we're pushing out of the community then turn into the people with the heavy commute. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like we're not getting rid of the heavy commute. We're just replacing it with a different set of people. So I think, again, the county, city support, they're going to have to do more with roadways, more with MARTA or public transportation, or more with different trolleys or things that get people places quicker and easier than just sitting in traffic. There's a lot of times where we're sitting still in traffic and the HOV lane is moving very briskly. So that lets you know there's not enough done for ride share. There's not enough promotion for, people going together to different places because people work so many different places in Atlanta. So, but yeah, the city and county are going to have to definitely come in and look at more things. And I think they're doing that. I think they're just years behind. It seems like as soon as they put in one lane, we really needed three.
Right. And they're working on it in some areas, that's for sure. But, these things do take time. And until then, I guess we're just going to have to deal with Atlanta traffic. So, Kendra, give me a case study of somebody that you've worked with. What kind of help were they coming to you for? How were you able to help them out? And what was the outcome for them?
Oh, nice. I want to talk about my one of my investors. I'm calling him an investor now. When I first met him, he was a tenant. But the crazy part is he's actually a maintenance manager for an apartment complex. And he has been a maintenance manager for over 20 years. Great case study. When I first started talking to him, he was actually given free rent at the apartment complex, so he had no need to buy a home in his eyes. We talked about buying a home, building wealth, because his wife was very adamant about wanting to have privacy. Of course, you can imagine if you're maintenance for a community that's over 200 people, over 200 units, people would knock on your door at any time and say, I have a problem.
Right.
So his wife wanted some privacy. So she pushed for them to buy a home, had conversations with both of them. And so I said, why don't we take this to a goal? Now, I've been working with him for about since 2011 now, but why don't we take this to a goal? So I said to them, when you guys go out and look for your first home, don't worry so much about, is this the best home I ever want to see? I'm going to live here for 30 years. Just get a home that's inexpensive and can be a great rental property. Good rents in the area. They actually listened, did it, got their first home, spent $47,000 on their first home. I could not believe they even were able to get this REO for that price, but they were. They now rent that home for $1,100 and own 4 other houses. So every house that they moved into afterwards, they moved into a second home. The second home is now free and clear. So what's happening in the key scenario is they're taking the rent, even though their rents are about double their mortgage payments right now, they're taking the entire payment, paying down their mortgage payments, and creating massive equity throughout their household. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to see that when you're helping a client, when you give them financial literacy, when you take them from being a tenant to being a landlord, a tenant to a homeowner to a landlord, it's a wonderful thing when they actually listen and they complement their lifestyle now. They complement the ability for their savings for college, for their first child that's going to college. They complement the way that they think about work now. The wife petitioned to work from home. The husband still works at the apartment complex, but got permission to sublease the apartment that they give him for free. Mm-hmm. So he's now getting rent for this sublease that he has no mortgage on, in addition to having his primary home and 3 other properties, a total of 4. So he has now became a model for his children. He now has the ability of generational wealth. He can leave his children each one of these houses if he wants it, or he can sell them, pay for college, or he can just keep them and let equity build. So many options now. When I first met him and his wife, I felt like they didn't have that many options. They were just saying, we need some privacy. And the husband was saying, well, I'm okay, but my wife's not. And the wife was saying, we really need some privacy to be able to have family dinners to ourselves, things like that. So it's just a great case study to see my, again, tenant go to being a homeowner and go to being an investor. It's a wonderful thing. And you know, I'm concerned and I want to make sure that I have helped many, many more people do the exact same thing. So it is definitely a goal of mine to help with financial literacy and to help other people be able to go from, you know, homeowners to landlords, vice versa, or tenants to landlords.
Well, that's a tremendous story. You know, complete mindset shift there from going to have a job to all of a sudden being a homeowner and having investments pay off the mortgage. It's a great place to be. So tell us a little bit more about, obviously you are that educator and the advocate for your clients, which is extremely important. I can hear it in your voice when you're talking. Tell me how people can get in touch with you if they want some help, if they're thinking about buying a property or a first-time home even. How do they get in contact with Kendra Seck?
I make it very easy. I always let my clients know if you remember my name, then you can get in contact with me. My email address is info@kendraseck.com. I have one phone number right now. It's my cell phone. I carry it with me to all meetings. That phone number is 770-666-4945. And if anyone wants to look me up or needs other information, you actually can just Google my name, Kendra Seck, and information on different websites will come up about me, but also the contact information. I'm located in a part of Atlanta called Buckhead, and I'm very open to making appointments and people coming by the office to meet me as well and continue this financial literacy legacy and moving people from tenants to investors. Thank you so much, Neil.
Excellent, Kendra. Lots of great content from you there today. There's a lot happening in Atlanta. There's still many opportunities for investors. So if you are an investor in the local Atlanta area, get in touch with Kendra and she'll be able to help you out with all the different mortgage options that are available today. Well, Kendra Seck, thank you very much for being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta.
Thank you so much for having me. You have a great day.
Thanks. And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.